Everyone, this is update for July 31 and August 1, 2022. Days 158 and 159 of the war, end of the date update. So first of all, I would like to explain that I'm doing some travel till August 4th, and then I will be able to resume sort of more normal and regular coverage. Until then, the sort of updates will be somewhat sporadic, and if I'm not able to do the video, I'll definitely post, and there is something important, I will post it on the community board. So if you want to keep updated, pay attention to community board. If there is no video, so tomorrow for sure there won't be any video. There might be video on the 3rd, and the videos will be relatively short and concise, just to follow what's going on, sort of on the front line, really bare bones of everything. So now let's go back. Actually, we're just gonna jump straight to the front line update, military situation. So first of all, in terms of the bridges, because that's important topic and that's important part of what's gonna happen. So apparently Russian side command built ferry next to the Antonivsky bridge, and they're using the ferry. That's obviously an opportunity, a sort of way to address the problem. It's still not solving the problem. The ferry, the throughput of the ferry is much lower than the bridge, and again, it's also vulnerable to attack. So this, as we discussed, this is going to be a long fight, a long drawn out fight, to sort of cut the supply line for the Russian troops. And also there was attack on railroad line that we reported about 5 days ago from Crimea to Kherson, at the station called Brylivka. Then it wasn't clear where the hit was, and we were sort of thinking maybe it's also on the bridge over this freshwater channel. It turns out no, it was just a railroad station itself. So it was damaged significantly, but as we discussed many times before, this railroad damage can be relatively quickly repaired, and it does not create sort of lasting strategic problem for the Russian side. This might be useful as a tactical tool once you launch offensive, let's put this way, where one day means a lot, like let's say 24 hours. The situation is like every hour, time is precious, right? In that case, you can do that and you can use it, and there is sort of strategic effect from those hits. But just generally as a general preparation, there is definitely no long lasting, first of all, and there's no strategic effect because of that. So this is just a quick update on what's going on with all of these bridges. Nothing else of the sort of major happened to them, so they are essentially in some state of disrepair, one or another, and Russian troops are trying to find solutions, which is very obvious. One is pontoon bridge, then the ferry is another one. So we sort of skeptical about the ability of the Russian command to continue supply, to provide necessary supply, let's put this way, for the troops that are almost cut off at this point on this bridgehead for the Russian side. Now let's actually jump to the front line. Let's do a quick walkthrough. And starting from the very north and then going then in a clockwise fashion down. So first of all, situation along the state border is remaining more or less the same as always. Exchange of artillery fire, and nothing new there. Now let's move to Kharkiv. Things here are totally frozen, totally on pause, just exchange of artillery fire, and that's it. Then let's jump quickly to Izyum bridgehead here. Let's see what's going on here. There was only one attack on 31st towards Dmitrivka, Russian attack. It wasn't even a large-scale attack, just kind of like it's more like attack to paint the picture, to kind of create impression on the Ukrainian side, Ukrainian command, that all of these troops are still here, they still pose credible threat, and the attack can be relaunched at any moment. So, and as we discussed, the point of this is to keep this 81st, 93rd, 95th Brigade, potentially 79th Brigade. We actually don't know for sure where the whereabouts of the majority of the brigade at this point, and they did suffer heavy casualties in the previous fighting, so it might be sort of in a process of rebuilding. There were also some units from 25th Brigade. They probably at this point already pulled to North Donbass front line, so that's probably where they are actually right now. But otherwise, this bridgehead is on pause, is frozen, similar to Kharkiv area. Now let's quickly jump to North Donbass front line. Things here is as we sort of kind of expected. The Russian command apparently decided to abandon this idea of attacking in the northern section of their North Donbass front line. So the focus is really straight on capturing this tiny town Soledar, and then the biggest sort of goal and objective is this town of Bakhmut. So as you can see, just literally frontal attacks straight towards those objectives, nothing sort of extraordinary, nothing special. At the same time, the reason probably Russian troops are doing that is because they need to focus and concentrate in a small section of the front line to create exceeding superiority in the forces. And let's say if they capture Bakhmut and just move forward here, essentially this is going to be outflank this whole area here, and Ukrainian troops kind of will have to leave, and they, as we discussed before, they will have to leave probably to some defensive line here on the top of the hills in this area, because as we discussed prior, like about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, the geography here is the following: that this is kind of like a chain of hills here, and the defensive positions are more or less there on this chain of hills. Then this is big valley here. This, like starting from Bakhmut, this valley goes all the way to this to the Siversky Donetsk River. So defending in the valley is near. Let's say it's possible, but not in condition of Ukraine. Like Ukrainian troops will not be able to successfully defend there probably. And then so the next sort of chain of hills is somewhere here. So you have to kind of retreat to the next chain of hills essentially. So this is probably what the Russian sort of command is thinking. Okay, we're gonna capture Bakhmut, and it's just basically what like about 5 kilometers away. We're almost there, maybe even 4 kilometers, something like that. Once we capture it, that's essentially means the crumbling of defenses of Ukrainian defenses in this northern sector, and we kind of like winning without sacrificing troops, which is obviously an efficient plan to how to do that. Remains to be seen if this is going to actually pan out that way, but this is apparently the plan. Now let's move a little bit towards the southern section of this northern Donbass front line. As you can see again, all of these attacks are really centered in kind of like a relatively narrow sector. Again, as we discussed, the point is to gather all of the resources on a small area of the front line, create exceeding superiority, and smash through that with the help of that exceeding superiority. And here's your Bakhmut, and you are the winner, right? So so far they didn't have success anywhere here. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen tomorrow, but we're just kind of stating the facts. So far over these 2 days, they were not successful there. Now let's move south to front line straight west of Donetsk. Here situation is somewhat similar. We discussed Russian troops launched a few days ago, launched offensive on their sort of wider section of the front line, basically starting here from this area around Novobakhmutivka all the way south, including this Vugledar and Pavlivka. This was kind of like entire section of the front line. Now this actually was narrowed down, again similar idea to what's going on near Bakhmut. Just focus on the very narrow section of the front line, focus all of the resources there, and create exceeding superiority. It's doesn't look to us that this gonna work here, even for the fact that defensive positions here are one of the best that Ukrainian troops has at this point at its disposal, that they were sort of built out over past whatever 8 years, since at least 2014. So and again, Russian troops is attacking here and then also in North Donbass, next to Bakhmut. We don't think that they have enough resources to be successful in the both locations. As we discussed before, Russian troops are smaller in number than Ukrainian troops on the front line, so they're basically being outnumbered. In equipment wise, they obviously outnumber Ukrainian side, and that's how it works. But nevertheless, you still need, it's all kind of like built up area. It's not just like a steppe and flat here. It's all a lot of call it like urban structures and things like that, and also like coal mines, because the Donbass is kind of like a land of coal mines, right? That's just what it's sort of basis of it. So it has a lot of this kind of like technical structures and so on. So it naturally creates opportunity for defensive fights. So and also it limits opportunity to use equipment and artillery as efficiently, because they definitely it's harder. You really need infantry here to clear up all of those urban areas. So that's why we think that it's we're somewhat skeptical about the opportunity here versus area in Bakhmut. It's much more promising, but the problem is for the Russian side is that if they sort of split into two different directions, this west of Donetsk and also east of Bakhmut, they don't have enough of superiority on either direction here west of Donetsk, because the defensive positions are just much better and they built over a long time, and in the north simply because Russian troops don't have enough simply troops to break through Ukrainian positions, because there's also quite, if you go back, you can see that there's a lot of, and all of this Ukrainian brigades, they probably at this point moved to this area. So again, there is a lot of Ukrainian troops here, right? So in sort of summary, if you like sort of look at this at high level, here Ukrainian troops are relying more on actually, defensive positions, right, in trenches and so on, engineer position, and using sort of less troops versus up north, they're relying more on sort of troops, and they have like much weaker defensive positions in terms of like developed from engineering perspective. So this is kind of like the situation overall in this whole area. And so as you can see, that's why Russian probably troops are narrowing down to very sort of small area, and even there the success is pretty much we're gonna actually look very quickly. This is the front line. Actually, let's just show where this is starting from this, like here from about Avdiivka and going to Piski, right? So this whole area where there's Donetsk International Airport, and this basically this whole area. So we're just going to look at it. So all Russian troops have to show for this whatever past like 4 or 5 days of attacks is just they just simply destroyed one Ukrainian position here, which is, I don't know, gain of about 1 kilometer, sort of like small gain here, and then there is another position right after that Ukrainian position. So it's really not much of progress, and then they managed to sort of capture a little bit something on outskirts of this village Piski here, and even there it's very unclear. Again, they may have captured sort of like couple buildings on the outskirts of the village or something like that. So again, as you can imagine, this one is even more like 300 meters or something like that. So as you can see, there is not much progress here, and obviously remains to be seen if Russian troops are bringing more resources from Russia, as we discussed, that they're trying to scramble more resources without doing true mobilization. So that obviously changes balance of power, and things may change. But so far, the way it looks right now, Russian troops are basically refreshed, somewhat sort of cosmetic, like probably the good way to explain this is that Russian troops were cosmetically refreshed after previous fights, but as you can imagine, it's superficial, right? Cosmetic is not the meaningful refreshment, and they being thrown again into battle with all of that. So this is what's going on here. Now let's jump quickly to Zaporizhzhia front lines. Things there are totally frozen. Just basically nothing is happening. Just artillery shelling, reconnaissance actions by both sides, but it's just frozen. So now let's jump to the final area, Kherson bridgehead. Things here, as we discussed, is that Russian troops now is trying to use ferries and pontoon bridges to circumvent the problem of the actual physical bridges. We believe it's not gonna be enough to provide enough supply of for the Russian troops on this bridgehead. Not to mention that the bridgehead is essentially cut into two pieces itself. Also, on another note, it looks like Ukrainian 36th Naval Infantry Brigade was sort of rebuilt after disaster in Mariupol. And basically what happened is that the smaller piece of the brigade was actually... during Russian attack, before encirclement of Mariupol, this 36th Brigade was essentially kind of like split into two pieces. Much smaller piece was kind of retreated north towards Volnovakha, and then just kind of retreated with the Ukrainian troops. And then main body, large piece was the commander and everything, then retreated to Mariupol, where they were encircled and destroyed essentially. But then Ukrainian command is using that smaller piece, and then essentially it rebuilt the entire brigade again to sort of it's fully functional. It has a commander, so everything is it's back on the battleground here. We don't know exactly where they operate. Probably together with 35th Naval Infantry Brigade, but it's back on the front line here in on the Kherson bridgehead. So that's a short update for today, and so we'll plan to do the next update on August 3rd. Anything, things are not guaranteed, so just please be patient. We appreciate everyone's, support, and again, really ask to be patient for this couple days. Thanks again, and until probably 3rd, and definitely guaranteed, and we'll provide full update on the 4th. Thanks again. Bye bye.